Welcome to the 6th episode of Pearls of Wisdom in the Psychology of Emerging Adulthood Research Lab YouTube channel. We're joined today by Jasmin Katz, a second-year master's student in Pearl. Jasmin, it's great to be in the same room as you.
Yeah, you too. So interesting that we happen to have the same background right now.
That's right. It just happens that we're in the same room, facing each other in the same wall at the same time. This feels appropriate for lockdown and where our headspace is probably at.
Exactly.
All right, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about your research. What are you researching and how did you become interested in it?
So broadly speaking, I am looking into understanding the role of some specific psychosocial factors that contribute to high-risk alcohol use and alcohol consequences among emerging adults.
And when you use the phrase psychosocial factors, what are you talking about?
So specifically, I'm looking at negative affect and interpersonal stressors.
Okay. And when you use the phrase negative affect, interpersonal stressors, what are we talking about?
So negative affect can really be any sort of negative emotion or a self-conflict. So think of anger and contempt, disgust, guilt, nervousness. Those are all sort of within the realm of negative affect.
Okay. And alcohol consequences, what do you mean by that?
So alcohol consequences are consequences that happen as a result of drinking behavior. So they can really range in severity. An alcohol consequence could be missing a school or work obligation, and it can be getting into a motor vehicle accident because of drinking. So really, they vary in terms of severity.
And how did you become interested in this subject?
I've always been interested in understanding like what inclines this age group to engage in high risk drinking behavior, and I think it's more interesting. It adds sort of a nuance to the research when instead of just looking at alcohol use, you're looking at like really the outcome of the alcohol use.
Mm-hmm. Any interesting findings you can share with us so far?
Yeah, so I actually didn't tell you the whole story, but I'm looking at among emerging adults, I'm looking at sort of emerging adults who don't meet any criteria for depression, and emerging adults that do meet a threshold for depression. So with that, I found that the depressed emerging adults on days when they experience negative affect are more likely to experience a alcohol consequence from their drinking, whereas emerging adults who aren't meeting criteria for depression on days when they experience negative affect are less likely to experience a negative consequence as a result of their drinking.
So let me see if I get that right. So basically an emerging adult who meets the clinical threshold of depression, who is experiencing those emotions that you talked about, and then engages in drinking behaviors, is more likely to experience negative outcomes, like the negative outcomes you talked about. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's shift over to the lab itself. How did you become interested in joining Pearl?
I've always been really interested in the emerging adult population. People are figuring out a lot about themselves, and it's really unique and it's different from other developmental periods like infancy and teenagehood. It's unique in some cool ways.
And so you're younger than 30, right?
Yeah,
So are you an emerging adult?
I am.
All right. Okay. So in terms of Jeffrey Arnett's 5 characteristics of emerging adulthood: identity exploration, instability, self-focus, feeling in between, and possibilities, which of those seems the most true for you or your experience?
I think the possibilities one resonates with me. Just sort of the endless number of possibilities that I have in this stage can be both exciting and overwhelming.
Any particular possibilities that come to mind when you think about that?
Yeah, as I just recently got accepted into the PhD program, I've started thinking a lot about internship, and there are so many possibilities of cities I could move to, sites in if I wanted to stay local in Toronto. And I think it's so great to have so many doors open and so many options. But definitely it could be overwhelming to think about, like I could really end up anywhere.
Any particular city like come to mind that would be really an exciting possibility for your internship?
Yeah, like I'm thinking if I were to move to the States and live in a big city, like New York, Chicago, Boston, any of those
Buffalo.
big cities. Yeah. Maybe not Buffalo, but definitely like one of the three I mentioned, I'd be really interested in.
Yes. And so it is kind of overwhelming, but exciting to imagine what you have to do to get to there. Right. But it's exciting to imagine yourself there or anywhere besides the room that we're both physically located in right now.
Exactly. And where the time doesn't change.
Yeah. Speaking of time not changing, COVID, it's still here. What's been really tough for you during this time?
I think just the adjustment of what I got used to last year and starting the master's, and then what life looks like now. So not being able to be in the clinic and to meet with my cohort and lab mates and learn from the more senior students. I think all of that has been really challenging, and in a way, like it takes away from what I could have got out of this program. So yeah, that's been hard.
Yeah, it's a loss. It's a real loss. Yeah. What about your friends? What's been tough for them right now?
I think the lack of separation from work or school and home has been really hard for them. So sort of being in the same room or location all the time and not having a clear boundary between the two.
How are you getting through what you're finding difficult, like that loss, or how are your friends getting through what they're struggling with?
I think just kind of trying to plan things to look forward to, even if they're small. So, going for a walk with a friend outside, grabbing a coffee, making a new recipe, anything that can sort of bring some sort of excitement into life, doing a virtual cooking class. Those things are all fun and can at least be something to be excited for during these times.
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. I think what I would add to them is that, even if we believe that some of those things might not be fun before we start doing them, often they turn out to be a lot more of a mood boost than we think they would be before we start doing them. So sometimes it's just about actually just getting moving, seeing a friend safely outdoors, or attending that cooking class, or just doing the thing.
Right.
Rather than sort of getting lost and wondering whether it will help.
Yeah. And just, you kind of have to change your expectations or standards of fun during COVID, because going for a walk outside, probably 2 years ago wouldn't have sounded that appealing or fun. But that's fun now.
All right, let's move into the rapid fire portion of the interview. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What's the first place in the world you want to visit after COVID?
Israel.
What is your favorite restaurant in Toronto, or one place you'd suggest people support right now since restaurants are struggling?
I love Maker Pizza.
You're uptown too, so you can probably try their square pies.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. If I didn't have blank, I don't know how I'd get through the day.
Coffee.
Astrology is,
Silly.
and what's your sign?
Sagittarius.
Hmm. If you hadn't gone into Oise's clinical and counseling program, what would you be doing right now?
I want to say traveling, but I realistically don't think that I would actually be one of those carefree, travel the world type of people. But,
Hmm.
I can hope and dream.
Where would you be instead?
Like, where would I travel?
No, like where would you be instead of traveling?
Oh, um, probably just working a 9 to 5 job. Nothing
Okay.
crazy.
Okay. What are you grateful for?
Um, my family and my friends.
And what's the last thing you watched and loved?
Um, I started rewatching Dawson's Creek.
So good.
Yeah,
Joey and Pacey forever.
forever. And Dawson.
Eh. He's a bit, I don't know. He's a bit, I don't know. What's your favorite podcast?
I've been enjoying The Accidental Intellectual. Want to support my fellow Oise peers.
That's right. Be true to your school. And
Exactly.
something people don't know about you is,
I don't like chocolate.
all right, you're going to cause controversy here.
Yeah.
Jasmin, thank you so much for joining in this interview. And I look forward to seeing you at our next lab meeting. Thank you again for your time.
Me too. Thank you.